Hey there, welcome to an episode of Coffee Solo. The time we are recording this today is 11:51 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in Greater Vegas on Sunday, in fact, Sunday, May 17th, 2026. The title, I usually say title and topic, but that's not true. Sunday. I have not created the cover art yet. I'm going to go for a robot production by a street. Did you hear that car? I'm going to go for a robot dinosaur thing eating a car, if anybody gets that reference. Coffee Solo for this Sunday. I think it's been a few days. When's the last time I recorded an episode of this? It was 10 days ago. That's too long. But that's sort of the first topic. So, and why is it called Sunday? No, we will not be destroying any cars during today's episode. It is not a demolition derby or whatever they call those now. Let me just read the summary real quick, and you'll get the picture. It's not a big deal. I'm just saying it's. I intended to record this episode on Friday afternoon, so that would have been the 15th. Friday afternoon, or maybe Saturday morning, or maybe midday, or afternoon, or Saturday night, and now, well, here we are. It is, or is it? Is it procrastination or something else? I think it's procrastination or just a low energy. And some other things for today's episode, of course, as usual. The links, if you have found this episode on Apple or Amazon or some other RSS feed somewhere, it is first published on ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/danhugo/posts. That is where the name comes from. It used to be published exclusively there, but then nobody goes to ko-fi.com for podcasts. But if you're ever looking for the origin story, I suppose, there it is. If you are looking at this episode on ko-fi.com, sorry, I had to get some water. If you are looking at this episode or listening to it, but if you found it on ko-fi.com, that link will not be there for obvious reasons. The other two are the homepage for Coffee Solo, which is danhugo.com. Why? Because I did not initially intend to create a separate sort of thing, separate portal, separate program, separate channel, all this stuff. So this sort of evolved, it emerged, but it's a personal sort of a vanity project, similar to Quaggling Sand, but Quaggling Sand has its domain. Why? Because I've had that domain for a long time. So danhugo.com, my vanity domain, you will find this and Buy Me an Update there. And then the profile page linking everything is my buymeacoffee.com/danhugo profile page. It is a free-form link tree of sorts, so I use it for that. I've had that for 5 years. 5 years and 1 month and 2 weeks or something. So it remains, it's funny to me. So you can go there and find links to all of my other audio programs. A while ago, I used to put links to all of my programs in every episode. And that's just too much reading, too much self-promotion. So I pushed it off to there, and there are websites for everything and links and YouTube channels and all that stuff. So you can find all that there. You do not need to spend any money on that site, though you are welcome to buy me a coffee if you really want to. Or you can use any of the affiliate links towards the bottom of the profile and don't spend any extra money. But I do have some of my favorite coffee beans there, as well as the Nasal Fresh, which I have been using. I think I settled on about every 2 days. So that has made a difference without, I'll just say that there's a saline solution involved. And if you do every day or twice a day, which I did initially when I first got it, it can lead to just like irritating or inflammation of your nose, your sinuses. So it's like, it's a little bit much. So I think every 2 days has been about right. So I do use that, not as frequently, but somewhat more than you probably. But if you're interested in that, Amazon affiliate link for that, Amazon affiliate link for the coffee beans. There's a Cash App link. I'm not looking at the profile right now, but I'm just thinking I use that card, like the Cash card. I use it probably 3 or 4 times a week, basically for groceries. And I'll tell you why I use it for groceries. First of all, during the pandemic, they used to have these boosts, which were discounts. and they had grocery store discounts. So I'm like, oh, I can save what, 10% or something. So I'd go to the grocery store and I would, Smith's is a Kroger property, but I would get my groceries and whatnot. And I'm like, oh, I get an extra 10%. So if I went on Fridays, it's 4x fuel points plus a 10% discount, etc. So like, every little bit helps. So 10% discount. Then they had Smith's or Kroger, I think Smith's discounts specifically, almost certainly based on my usage. And then they kind of did away with boosts that were of any use. And then they kind of brought them back in a weird, I don't bother even trying to keep track of their various promotions mode. But the other thing about the Cash Card, and I'm not here to plug it, I'm just telling you why I actually have an affiliate link to that. The thing I like about it is here in Vegas, I have in my travels, I'm going to say, I've been here for 13 years. I'm going to say like 3 times, maybe, mislaid. I don't even know if it's 3 times. I think twice, but both times I got it back, but I mislaid my card. Okay, so that's annoying. Got it back. In fact, both places were places where I knew the people that worked there. So they were like, hey, your card is here or your wallet's here. One place I somehow left my wallet there. I think I probably took it out of my pocket and put it down and just got distracted. So they had it in the safe and everything. So, okay, fine. But here's the deal. If you have recurring payments, and this is not, by the way, this is not part of the show today. I'm just riffing. If you have, okay, so I have my rent and I have my, what else? Electric bill. There's a couple of subscriptions. There are things that I don't want to have to mess with too often. So I have the main account for my credit union and it has a debit card. So I have, so I just pay some bills either with the debit card or with ACH, automated clearinghouse payment, right? Like an electronic check. So that account has only a specific number of recipients of funds, I guess, transfer destinations, endpoints. And I never carry the card with me. So the odds of it being compromised are very low. They're not zero, but they're very low. I will say that my credit cards in general have been compromised more by, probably by digital theft, right? Stealing everybody's credit cards somehow, security breaches and whatnot. The last time, the thing that really prompted me to do this, I think it was somebody had used my card in Guam to buy some plane tickets or whatever. So they're like, are you in Guam right now? I said, no, I'm not. So something like that. So yeah, basically keeping the main credentials for the account, the debit card, the use of that account for paying things, keep it to a bare minimum, right? Then I have another account that I transfer money into that I use for out and about, right? If I'm gonna get a bus ticket, bus ticket. If I'm gonna get a bus ticket from Flix, if I'm gonna head to Phoenix, or if I'm gonna get a transit pass, 7-day transit pass here in Vegas for $20 until they raise the prices, which they're going to do. So I have this other account. If I do need to use it for groceries, great. But this is one where I use it in the field. And if it gets stolen, that's fine. I usually transfer money into it from my mobile device to cover charges. So that minimizes the risk of having too much funding available for theft, right? So if somebody were to steal the card and try to use it, they would find like, what is this? He has $10. Probably because I just purchased some things and I was over by about $10 in my estimate. So that one I keep the balance on a like how much do I need to spend right now basis. And like if I'm getting a bus ticket or a pass, say I'm getting a 24-hour pass, $5. So and I have the RTC app set up so I can just purchase the pass through the application. So I have this card as the automatic payment method. So just fingerprint, don't bus pass, $5. So I'll check first and see, I have $4.80. So I'll put in $1, transfer, intrabank transfer, it doesn't matter, which I'll get to in a second. And then I will make the purchase. So I've only kept, an extra 80 cents now in there. So not a problem if I mislay the card or whatever. I'm not going to be too freaked out that people stole it or that people were gallivanting around making purchases. And besides, most card readers are adding in the PIN code. So you either have to know the zip code or the PIN code or something. So I think just the blind swipe, which in some cases you have to have the CVV, the verification code, card presence, if that's another way of looking at it. So if somebody goes and swipes the card through a mag stripe reader of old and is able to make a purchase without additional verification, like a PIN code or knowing the zip code or something, still they're only going to get $1. So there you go. Now the cash card, if I'm at the grocery store or something, now sometimes they would have the bonuses and whatnot, and other times not. But it is much easier to transfer money in one direction, at least. I've really never tried the other direction, but I can transfer money. Now they do an ACH transfer between my bank and whatever Jack Dorsey uses for their stuff. But they basically give an instant transfer with the ACH delay. So in other words, the funds are available immediately, and then it's pending from my bank, and then it will clear the next day. So they do a single day transfer overnight or whatever, or later the same day. It depends on what time it is. ACH is a pain. It's convenient that there is some float, but ACH really should take moments in general. You shouldn't have to pay extra for expedited ACH transfer. Usually they're 3 to 4 days. Okay, fine. Anyway, so the Cash App, I use it super frequently just for that basis because it's super easy to transfer funds. And I also, since I use it in specific places also, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. I'm not out buying up stuff all day in different places. I'm not going to find like, oh, where did I leave that card? So the only card that probably would get left somewhere or would have to have some sort of trace on usage, maybe if it got stolen or compromised, is the actual credit union card that has the actual attachment to my main account for transfers. So yeah, I basically have like different levels of usage based on how likely the card is to be stolen or compromised, I guess, and convenience and transfer speed and whatnot. So transferring to my bank or from my bank from ACH origin, if I transfer out, if I write an e-check to something, my bank always takes too long, my credit union. So that's something I have to fix or address at some point, but I don't quite have $1 million, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. So yeah, Cash App. And you can personalize the card. I have my initials on the card in a stylized form that I've been using since I was in high school. On that note, let's get on with this show, all right? So my personal productivity has fallen precipitously. I thought I was going to make it through that sentence. My personal productivity has fallen precipitously of late. The question is, now I know I love procrastinating. I'm expert. I'm boss level procrastinator. I'll tell you about that another time. But the idea that I'm pondering is whether I'm not going to say depressed. Like I'm not going to get called in to be monitored or anything, but definitely like a low energy, kind of like I need some good news or I need some sort of like positivity. And that has been, so, I don't really track global geopolitics at this point because it's ridiculous. I don't ignore it, but I don't sit here watching. I've not really been like a cheerleader for any politician, for elections and government and whatnot. I am noticing that normal people in these roles are infinitely corruptible and are usually not worthy of the job. So once you realize that, there's really no point in being a supporter of anyone or a believer of anyone. So I'm not really into, I watch news and commentary just to see what's going on. But it's always bad news. So I can't say I'm getting drawn into that. As I've mentioned, and I'm going to give a brief update but I like watching like normal people doing normal things on YouTube. So reaction videos or people with hobbies. There's a British guy who does history, and I cannot remember his name. There's this guy, he's a nuclear engineer, and he debunks or otherwise reacts to nuclear weapon movies or, the Chernobyl series or things like this. Kind of interesting. He's kind of a nerd, but he seems to know his stuff. I mean, I guess that goes together. In fact, the history guy and the nuclear science guy. So the history guy did a what if there was a nuclear war? Like what would happen in the first 30 seconds of whatever. So he went through his whole episode doing that. And then the nuclear engineer guy, and he's a nuclear engineer at a reactor complex somewhere. So he doesn't do weapons, which he's very clear about. But a lot of things are similar. You don't enrich uranium to 90+% for a reactor, right? You keep it small. So there are things like that, right? You're not going for maximum yield. But anyway, he learned all this stuff and he knows all the math and everything. So that's fine. Anyway, so he did a reaction to the history guy's video. And then I just came across this sometime in the week. They did a conversational show. So they actually went through some of the details and here's how it really works, everything. So it's actually interesting. And I wish people would do that more often, actually. These internet beefs that go on where so-and-so said something and then somebody else said something else and now they hate each other and they're like, just speak to each other, and you can do it online if you want and capture it for all to see, but instead they do this passive aggressive, YouTuber battle stuff. Rap battles have become YouTuber battles or whatever, TikTok about, who knows? So I try to avoid those. But yeah, and actually, if you're curious, I do watch some right-leaning stuff, some left-leaning stuff. But I watch Hassan clips. I've never watched an entire Hassan Piker episode of his program. That seems insane to me to watch 8 hours a day or whatever. People do it, I think. But yeah, so I don't think I'm getting too wrapped up in that stuff. I'm keeping a distance. I just think it's going to be, it is ridiculous now. It will continue to be ridiculous. Whenever somebody's like, oh, I think he's doing a great job. Okay, fine. I'm not even going to argue with you. I don't really care. So maybe that's appearing in the way I say that, like a sort of resignation, I guess. But anyway, so participation in the daily news and whatnot is down. I will say that. I pay less attention. Then there is the whether I'm procrastinating. And I always procrastinate, but I also think that I do not procrastinate if I'm into something, right? And so, as you may know, I'm the managing director of the Innovate for Vegas Foundation. We have a whole bunch of initiatives and whatnot, and we used to have people showing up to our hackathons to work on stuff. And people have this notion that a hackathon is a thing, is a certain, oh, I thought there'd be like Red Bull and pizza, and we have to work on whatever we want and get a prize. And you're like, no, that's sort of like saying a book has to be about a particular topic. And you're like, no, a book is a format. A book in paper form has a cover and some printed words on paper inside, and it's bound, right? So they think that a hackathon is one thing instead of being a format for a variety of things. You could say the same with pizza, right? Why is this pizza square? They're supposed to be round. And you're like, no, pizza is a bigger picture than you are imagining. So hackathon, same thing. So we used to have people showing up, but then they really didn't do anything. And then they stopped showing up. And then so our whole organization is sort of withered into me. We had two other directors on our board of directors. They were profoundly disappointing. So we've spent our 4th fiscal year with just me doing some outreach. And I'm designing a Agile for Volunteers workflow with associated templates for issues. Some people will say, oh, once Agile has tools, it's kind of broken, but there are some things about volunteer projects that kind of change that a little bit because volunteers may or may not show up. So being able to work with information that was created and maintained or not by people who just disappeared is one of the factors. A volunteer effort is not 40-hour work weeks usually, we're an all volunteer organization. So Agile for Volunteers, Project to Act to connect different brigades or former brigades across the country or other cohorts. That's autonomous cohort tessellation. And then extending that to connect other entities. So we have the Innovate for Nevada effort now that Hack for Reno is gone. So there's all kinds of stuff, but I've been like, nobody really, nobody really cares. That sounds very depressing. Nobody gives any attention to anything unless it's done. That's something I have found here in Vegas is that, but I'm sure it's true everywhere, but it's certainly not, that was not true in the Silicon Valley days of old. I don't know if that's the way it is now, but back in the old days, you would say like, hey, do you want to, I have this startup idea, or people would be like, oh, what is it? Like maybe I can be a part of it or help. Or it was always this like sizzle going on, an energy level, like, ooh, there's always something cool or interesting happening. And here you could say, and I've done entire episodes of various things, programs and whatnot about, you can stand on a chair somewhere and say, I have a startup idea, and nobody cares. Like, yeah, go work on it. Stop making noise. So people here in Vegas are definitely of that ilk. So when you're saying things like, hey, we have this nonprofit, it's a charity, and we're going to have this event, and you can participate in it, and people are like, yeah, go ahead, have fun with that. How are you coming on that? How's that working out? So people are very much into like me, not you, not us, but me. I'm working on what I'm doing, and I don't really, unless there's something in it for me. So that's kind of frustrating. So I think that has definitely lowered because suppose you're just to keep it like a normal thing, suppose you enjoy cooking and you make a nice meal for your friends or family or whoever, and they're like, oh, thanks. Maybe they make a plate and they leave, or maybe they don't even eat anything. Oh, I already ate it. We had dinner at work, so you're like, oh, well, why do I bother doing this then? So you still enjoy cooking, but you can cook for yourself. And then eventually you're like, yeah, but I don't feel like cooking for myself, and that's it. So then it drops off precipitously, and you're like, oh, that's right. I was going to cook that one thing that one time. Whatever happened to that? Oh, the ingredients are all expired and wilted or whatever. So yeah, there's this lack of energy, mostly just because there's no, I guess you could say encouragement. So yeah, like, I guess I could finish this today, or I could work on it tomorrow. No one else is going to be saying, oh, that's awesome. They're not going to care. So that's my strategy for moving forward in Vegas with this nonprofit effort, is to just do things, not tell people, not announce them, and not make a big deal of it, and then roll out some things that I think will be pretty cool, and just say, hey, yeah, that's what we're working on. And then eventually there may be, and I don't know if other nonprofit entities in Vegas work like this, like, how do you get the second person to work on something? Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's somebody who has a similar mindset, right? There are how many nonprofits in Vegas? Probably 1 million? No, there's a lot. So clearly they are able to function here, but it is very difficult to get people to do something that will benefit themselves, but they don't want to actually do anything. And even the younger students, the early junior level, entry level, we're not a software company, but certainly you can develop software as part of our efforts. The idea is to be inclusive of all forms of innovation and all forms of people who want to pursue those ideas, even if they don't know exactly what they're doing. So yeah, maybe we are a software company. But the take home, this is the second item that I have jotted down here. Nonprofit is non-fun, especially in Vegas. So we're all volunteer organization. So whenever I hear what's in it, is there free food? That's my favorite one. Is there free food? No. Now, if we're moving along and we're making some progress, and then we can go to some sponsors, perhaps. Hey, would you like to sponsor a hackathon? If we have donations that we could sustain getting some food, right? We can visit, restaurants, or ideally food trucks. And if we have enough people at a hackathon, for example, hey, we're having our monthly hackathon meetup. Maybe we can have a food truck come by if there's enough people. And maybe we'll get a discount, because sometimes food trucks will offer like a 10% discount for charities or school events and things like this. That's my experience in the food truck industry. So, you can ask. But the take home, the we can't do those things if nobody's showing up. So there's a chicken and egg problem. So if I explain that, well, we don't have anything to show. Why would there be free food? You just want to show up and eat. So when I was in Silicon Valley, there was the food truck thing was going on. It had really blossomed in LA thanks to the Southern California Mobile Food Vendors Association. Then in the Bay Area, there was the what was it called? I always forget. It's a federal property. It's a former military base in San Francisco. Why am I totally spacing on the name? But the company, Matt Cohen started this company and he got all the permits that you could get in the San Francisco area, and then, in larger areas, and was able, big food truck event. I just want to know because I always forget. Foodie Land? Yikes. Did we have that? Did we have Foodie Land here? We had a foodie event, Foodie Fest. Yeah, we had Foodie Fest here in Vegas, and that always goes well. What is it? Matt Cohen. Off the Grid. Off the Grid was the company, and then they had the I don't know if they just called it Off the Grid as the event, but they had access to federal property, which meant you could operate your food truck without health department permits, which was good for food trucks that were just getting started, right? They didn't, because in the Bay Area, because there's 5 counties, there are more, but I mean the 5 that surround the Bay. So if you only had your health department inspections and credentials in order, business license, if you had all that stuff, but you were on the East Bay, right? You're in Alameda County or something. You're like, oh, now I got to go through another process to do business. And they're like, no, you don't need to get your credentials. So I think they really wanted you to have one of the counties, but because there was no inter-county cooperation, like just get one health department certification, you do your inspections, you pay for whatever. Because they didn't do that, you had to go to any county that you're going to do business and get inspected and all that. Now, that's not awful, but it is not convenient. The days of the R word, the roach coach, those are not really, I mean, every once in a while a food truck will fail an inspection, but for the most part, the food truck owners that I worked with were always pretty pedantic when it came to keeping things clean. So anyway, Matt Cohen set up this thing to have food trucks, right? He set up this business Off the Grid, and then he had this property, and then he got permits, and so other food trucks could work for him on his permits for different locations. I don't know how San Francisco is doing that, but the thing that the Southern California Mobile Food Vendors Association, SoCal MFVA, had accomplished with their efforts was that they were able to secure the ability of food trucks to operate on public right-of-ways. So there's a DMV code that goes along with this. So it's like 88666 or whatever. It's not that, but it's some easy to remember number. So they went through court and they established that, yes, you can operate a food truck on a public right-of-way as long as you don't obstruct traffic and everything. So this kind of cleared the way for having food trucks operate on city streets and so on, as long as you followed whatever the specific rules were. So I'm not quite sure how Off the Grid was able to maintain their hold. It depends on how San Francisco is treating this, but from the state law level, you were able to operate food trucks wherever. So here's the problem. This is why I started telling this story. You set an expectation when you say, because this became the standard business model. If you wanted to do like a lunch on the street, right? Hey, Off the Grid, we're going to have, or more likely it'd be the other way around. Off the Grid will say, hey, we have this, we can have 3 food trucks here on Thursdays, 11 to 2 lunchtime. So they would usually charge, I want to say like $25 plus 10% of your revenue, rev share. So Off the Grid would promote their events and their locations and all this. So they had this sort of machinery in place. They had a staff of employees. They would set up any of the larger events. They'd have tables. They had a truck with logo on the side. It would show up with with tables and chairs and so on. So he was doing, Matt and his staff were doing the work of supporting these events operationally, logistically, from a marketing standpoint, and so on. So the people that were working for him were like, hey, that's good for us. So great. So in the South Bay, you had Movable Feast, MVBL. And then in the East Bay, you had the Food Truck Mafia. And it was the Food Truck Mafia because it was a family where different family members had food trucks. Right. So it was a family business. So the Food Truck Mafia, the Movable Feast, and Off the Grid. And so they all kind of set this standard of like $25. I don't know if it was, I think it was 25. I think it was 25 plus 10%. Okay. So you've set the terrain. So now anybody who had a private, like a parking lot or something, they would say, hey, do you want to do your food truck? You want to operate here? It's $25 plus 10%. And the food truck owners that didn't know better would be like, okay. I'd always tell them, like, if you pay Movable Feast their fee, they also have a truck with, and their thing was 5-gallon paint buckets instead of chairs. And that was mostly because of the San Jose Health Department. If you brought tables and chairs, it was considered an outdoor restaurant, I think it was. But if you had milk crate, not milk crates, if you had these 5-gallon buckets, then that's just sitting outside. So it was a technicality that he took advantage of. He's like, oh, I went to Lowe's and I got a bunch of gray buckets. Eventually he had branded red buckets. Their logo colors were red and white and so on. So yeah, he's setting up the infrastructure and he's got a website, he's doing the marketing, he's telling people about it and so on. So you're either getting a full support infrastructure or you're getting a parking lot and good luck. But either way, you're supposed to pay $25 plus 10% of your revenue share. And people are doing it. So I didn't really understand that. So here we have bigger, we'll just say bigger players. We have people that believe they are supporting a entrepreneurial ecosystem, and people misuse that word all the time. But startup scene, hey, the startup scene in Vegas, which it's just there's no coherence when we talk about these things here, but bear with me. So hey, there's a startup scene. So the people with the funds to do so will then have food. So yeah, hey, come for the free food. So now there's there's no food. So you're going to get not 100%, but you're going to get a certain number of people who are going to say, oh, I thought you're not having lunch. So the notion that to show up somewhere, you must ply people with free food. Startup Vegas used to do pizza at their events. They would get like 24 pizzas. There'd be pizza everywhere. Tech Alley does their catered lunch with Taverna Costera. Even though they moved to a different location, they still do it. So, because it used to be at Taverna, was like the hub in the Arts District. What is that place called? There's like a place with a little bit of some classrooms or some workspaces that's right next door to Taverna. So it worked out nicely. It was an interesting layout. I will eventually talk more about why this infrastructure ends up being stagnating. People will argue, but the results and outcomes are hand waved. So you really can't point to what's working and what isn't without some analysis. And I think it's easier to not do that analysis so you don't have to have an argument about it. But anyway, so once you set the bar, like, oh, okay, these events, in order to be an enabler in the community, you have to have these bigger events and have to cater things and whatnot. And so do I still have it? Oh, there it is. Okay. So I was just watching a video that somebody did, the Vegas startup scene from May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I don't think he made that reference. First of all, I guess this is his script in the video description. Las Vegas is not just building another startup scene. That's not good, because you don't really build a startup scene. You pay people to show up, I guess, but so I always have a problem with that. Southern Nevada is becoming a real-world testing ground for mobility, robotics, energy tech, gaming innovation, sports technology, and deep tech companies solving problems that actually matter. So some of these are key key industries that LVGEA is driving, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. They've kind of backed off on the startup stuff. I think they're really looking at economic diversity by way of existing platforms. So sports technology and health, sports and health, I think it is, sports and fitness, whatever. Healthcare is another key industry not on here. Deep tech companies, not sure what that is. Gaming innovation, but that's always been the case here. The gaming and hospitality are what make Vegas go. So to say that it's becoming, or no, it is, it's always been that. Energy tech, solar, yes. The thing that's not left out, or the thing that is left out here, is sustainability, especially with regards to water. If you're watching the news, 40% reduction in water availability, thanks to the Colorado River being a problem. So Vegas is already leading probably the nation, but certainly the southwest part of the nation, the country. Vegas recovers like snow melt and other rain and other runoff. Not 100% efficiency. That would be nice. They treat the water to make it potable, and then it is stored in Lake Mead. I don't know if we have a better reservoir than that. I don't believe we do. So the Colorado River is one of the sources of water, but Lake Mead also, because of this, it's a part of a water system, natural water system. So some other places also will make use of some of this water, Arizona, California. So the water rights negotiated for Colorado River, and then some of that flows into Lake Mead, and I think some of it flows out, right? Doesn't it go all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico, if memory serves? So water conservation in the desert is an important thing. And as it happens, Southern Nevada, for sure, leads the way in that. So I'm surprised that that's not mentioned. Mobility, I don't know what they're thinking of is automated cars, because Nevada was an early FAA test site for drones, and that has sort of fed into unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and then self-driving cars, or whatever the names are now. The acronyms are multiplying. So yeah, so mobility is that. Self-driving cars are not great. They're all electric, I think. So I guess that's okay. I don't know. I'm not, mobility in Southern Nevada is tricky because construction is always happening. So getting around is always a pain already. They really should be working on, like the tunnels that Boring Company / Musk should not be having individual cars cruising around. They should be looking at subways. If they're going to do this, they could automate subways and have public transit underground. But no. Anyway, so the so-called scene, there are some mentions of some things, so he lists off some events. The events that get attention in Vegas are the bigger events. Tahoe Economic Summit. This is the list that's provided here. Las Vegas Startups. I don't even know what that is. I guess it's Vegas Startups. Vegas.startups. I'm sorry, startups.vegas. Las Vegas Robotics Meetup. That's a weird group. I guess it's kind of getting some traction, but I get the sense that there's half tire kickers. They've had meetups where like 150 people signed up, and then now they have the same meetup, which doesn't happen regularly, which has like 30 people signed up. That's fine. That's not a numbers game, but I think people get overexcited when everybody signs up, shows up, but then they end up milling around looking for free food. The International Conference of on Gambling and Risk Taking. Should I go to that? Should I not go to that? It's hard to say. Eureka Grant Summit, Zero Labs Innovation Launchpad Program. I signed up. I applied to be a part of Zero Labs for their Launchpad. It's a 3-day program. They make it seem like they're going to change your life. They were the worst people I've ever interacted with in Vegas, I have to be honest. There's no way I would ever sign up for that. Free co-working First Friday. I don't know why this fits into the other events. Vegas Crypto Group events. Not sure why that's valuable. Fusion 42 Pitch Kung Fu and Founder Huddle. Fusion 42 is run by a person who I don't care for. It's ridiculous. Now, so basically this YouTube video, and I'm not even going to plug it because it's just not worth it. It is found by people, and good for you if you find it and find it valuable. But basically, we don't have an effective resource here in the greater Vegas area to publicize the work done by startups. Nobody talks about it. I did an entire episode of my Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program about how in Silicon Valley back in the day, the real Silicon Valley, the press in the Silicon Valley area, the San Jose Mercury News in particular, but the San Francisco Chronicle, the smaller papers in different towns, we had the Sunnyvale Sun. They were publishing front page stories about startups and so on. The meetups were much more casual. We used to have meetups on Thursday nights in different places. So sometimes it would be at the Blue Chalk in Palo Alto. We'd go and play pool and maybe have some dinner, and then whoever showed up and just hang out and mill around and chit chat. Most meetups in Vegas that I've seen are either mill around and chat or call it co-working, or maybe there's a speaker or presentation, or maybe there's a classroom or some other collaborative effort in a classroom or lecture style where somebody will do it for free to develop some leads, or they'll do it for money because they want the leads or the classroom experience. Or so Tech Alley is that, right? Okay, I'll get to that in a second. But like Startup.Vegas has their link up. Is it link up? Where you go and just use the co-work space at the WeWork in the town square down by towards the airport. Okay, so that's fine. You can show up for free, get a free day out of it in a WeWork co-work space. You can do that somewhere else though. So they do it once a month, I think, or once every 2 months or something crazy. The return on that is not great, but it still counts. Like anybody could have co-work collaborations anywhere, anytime, across the entire greater Vegas area. They don't get any attention. Why? Because we don't have the resources to connect people and make them aware of startup efforts or these other resources. So the list of things I just read that is in this video, those are the ones that get the attention because those are the ones that are big enough to be worthy of attention. But what will you get out of those? And that's the question that people don't bother asking because it's like, oh, but it's happening. Just go to Tech Alley, you get free lunch and you can meet all these people. And you're like, yeah, you're meeting other people who are there for free lunch. So there are other problems with these in that the food truck situation also, I described how Off the Grid had purchased the permits for the San Francisco area. So you would basically work through him to have a spot in certain areas in the city and so on. And he would do the bookings and take his fees and all that. Movable Feast started doing that in the South Bay. But the thing in the South Bay was there was already, and because of the space, there was just, South Bay is more open. It doesn't have big, unless you're in San Jose. But in the peninsula, South Bay area, some, maybe up to Fremont before you got into the true East Bay. You've got small office parks, right? The flip up buildings. That's an architecture style. They're everywhere. Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Palo Alto, Los Gatos. You could operate your food truck all over the place, and you could do lunches. And as long as you had permission from the property owner to be on the property, there was no way that Off the Grid or Movable Feast could take money from you. So now you had this entire notion of working for yourself in your food truck and working directly with, hey, you want to have lunch at your office? Sure. And they would advertise it. And if it was a subsidized lunch, okay, you check an employee badge or something, and they might get a discount or whatever it was. But it was basically open to everyone. So everyone could show up and hang out and have lunch or whatever. So you basically opened up the possibilities of lunch variety, portable variety, as I call it. So you were able, so as you discovered more food trucks in these one-off lunches and whatnot, then it was, I could go to this food truck event and discover more food trucks. So you're basically becoming more and more aware of what's going on if you were interested in food trucks by a combination of these food truck events, which cost money on the part of the food truck owners to participate in, and then their actual lunch businesses, like a traditional food truck, except that they would book. It wasn't quite the same as a lunchero where that's usually contractual on a construction site or something. But you'd work for one place one day and go somewhere else, or maybe you'd have a recurring schedule. We're here on Thursdays or alternate Fridays or whatever. And this brings portable variety to your various workplaces, office parks, office buildings. There was a law firm in Palo Alto, I think it was called Morrison Forrester. And even they refer to themselves as MoFo. So the MoFo building was a building. It was probably a dozen stories, maybe more. And the office manager would send out an email like, oh, today the food truck is whatever. And there'd be one food truck outside, and they would do all the business for that building for the day. That was great. Everybody loved doing MoFo. So this is the benefit of having the infrastructure in place, or the culture, probably more the culture, where people are cross promoting each other and they're understanding that there are more places to do business than there are people doing business. So in other words, I always said this, if you have 100 food trucks and 101 places to do business, everybody can work when they want to. So the South Bay definitely had that. The San Francisco area, because of off the grid, they had a little bit of governance applied to the different places to do business. The take home, though, was that there was this entire flow of awareness and discovery and promotion, and social media was coming on the scene. So people were tweeting about their food truck locations. I don't even know how many thousands of tweets I would send out, tagging each other, pictures of food and so on. Instagram has kind of screwed all that up, but Instagram is a totally different beast. You got your picture of your food, but also their algorithm of delivery is ridiculous. But anyway, the take home, in a place that wants to be cross promotional of its startup scene and so on, I will tell you this. Instead of talking about the Tahoe, okay, you can talk about them. I'm not saying don't talk about them. The Tahoe Economic Summit, the Las Vegas startups, and these are just words. There's not information about them. Like there should be website links there are. Okay, let me look at the links. Sorry. I forgot. I read this earlier, like yesterday. So some of the things he mentioned in the video and so on. So the VEI website, First Nevada Robotics website. First is a robotics competition. First and Vex. So I've been a judge at a First robotics competition. They're very nice. The Raiders Foundation website, they're doing some grants for charities. They actually, you had to apply by April 30th, but I'll probably think about that for the fall. They do it twice a year. Las Vegas Robotics Meetup. Okay. Strangely, the Las Vegas Robotics has a website that they apparently don't use. So the Meetup account, Tech Alley website, Tahoe Prosperity Center. Sorry. So that had to do with the Tahoe Economic Summit. Startup Vegas website. So here, I believe he called it Las Vegas Startups, but now it's the Startup Vegas website. So startup.vegas, like I said. Angel NV website. I have some problems with Angel NV. I think they're problematic. Startup NV website, startupnv.disco. What? Hang on, we gotta check this out. What is this? They have a free. What is this? Okay. What some people don't talk about too much is that startup.vegas and startup NV kind of merged at some point. So I guess Disco is a community platform of some sort. Oh, they're ordering. Oh, okay. This is some sort of classwork for free. Okay. So Startup NV actually has a website themselves. Startupnv.org. Yeah. So I don't know why you linked to that. Startupnv.org if you want to go there. I'm always suspicious of people who are building communities or ecosystems. I did an entire episode on the difference between a community and an ecosystem. If you're going to use ecosystem in an analogous way to biological ecosystems. So I think that's what people try to do. But then the notion of building an ecosystem, that's terraforming. If you want to keep the terminology analogous. So I think people believe that, we'll just set up a weekend event and have some free food and that we're ecosystem building. No, not really. There's a ton more to that. Oh, then we'll just be community building. Okay, so you provide some free food. What is that? What have you built? And so I always say, if you want to test your ecosystem building or your community building, stop the free food and see what happens. Like if you have built a community is people with common interests and needs, right? So a neighborhood, a community of people who show up for things. So if you turn, like if the person leading the community says, I can't do the free food anymore and I'm moving, so I'm not going to be here anymore. What happens to that community? If you have quote unquote built a community, then they would continue to show up. But if you leave, if you depart, and if you're always considered the rock star, like you're the person that makes this happen, and you don't show up, or you have to move away, or you disappear, or whatever happens, and the community withers and fades, and you're like, oh, okay. So really what you had was a cult of personality, perhaps. Oh, he's awesome, or she's awesome. We got all this stuff. Look at all that they built for us. No, they set up a tent. And when nobody else came to set up the tent, then the tent was not set up anymore. So that would be something I would observe about this. But the reason I was reading through all those links and so on is that they're talking about organizations and entities, which, okay, that's fine. Show me the startups. Show me where people are doing things and making stuff happen. And this is where I was saying that in the Silicon Valley days, the local press would actually cover these things, front page news, right? So here in Vegas, good luck. And that was my point with the nonprofits are non-fun. We're looking for board members to sit on our board, and we're going to organize an all-year challenge for anyone to participate to make our smart city smarter, right? So that's in 2027. And as a precursor, we're going to have a City Camp Las Vegas event in September of 2026. Now, will any person whatsoever in the greater Vegas area who works for any media outlet, whether it's print media, TV media, whatever, will they care in the slightest? Nope. So in order to promote anything, you have to just do it yourself. So here in Vegas, you must be entrepreneurial, whether you like it or not, if you want to accomplish something. So, and LinkedIn is overly celebrated as oh yeah, just put the stuff on, follow and forget. There's all these problems that are presumed solved, but they're not. So, oh yeah, just post on LinkedIn. I will give an example. I've used this example before. There are events like the ones, and by the way, why is this person in their video announcing all this list of links as resources? Because nobody else will. Because we have no discovery mechanism here in the greater Vegas area. So you're like, good luck. So the notion is just do your thing, and remember I mentioned food truck people, they cross promote each other. Do your thing, and other people will show up and talk about it and whatnot, because the local press won't. Okay. So what was it? Startup Week Las Vegas, or Las Vegas Startup Week, I think it is. It will probably happen again in September or October. I think it was October. It's an event in the southwest part of the city. It's not even in the city of Las Vegas. In the southwest part of the region. So it's off center. Like, why not have these events in the middle so that, because our public transit system is horrible. Oh, just drive. Parking. You should enable, people don't think of these things. Like, how can we enable the most amount of people to attend? People that don't have cars, people that maybe use bicycle in. Is this a place that you can get to on a bicycle or in a bus? Sure, you can get to this event in a bus. If you're in certain parts of the city, it will take 2 hours because our transit schedules and routes are so vastly broken. Should fix that during the Smarter Smart City Challenge. So the Startup Week Las Vegas. I think that's what it's called. I think it is. Yeah, startupweeklasvegas.com for some reason. It used to be sponsored by Tech Stars, and now I think it's sponsored by the GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development. And they have their event, and then nobody knows about it. So I signed up. They have this little agenda planning thing. So you sign up, and then you see which things you are interested in or whatever. They had about 500 people sign up, but about 300 of them actually lived in Vegas. So it's not clear that the other 200-ish estimates, if the other 200 or so people were just signing up for whatever reason, or they wanted to keep track, or maybe they were going to come to town, don't know. I just found it humorous because I always refer to the startup scene as the 300 people that show up to things, and they put their name on the list, and they attend the event, and they get recognized, and everybody knows their name. And I'm like, okay, it's been, since the pandemic, it's been 5 years since things kind of got back into this, let's have a startup scene. So I won't count the 13 years I've lived here. to observe this, but I think it's cyclical, one of those. You just get this little wave of people who are going to become well known. They get attention. I was probably one of those at some point. So that list of things that I mentioned is going to include, so the events, the website links that were in that list. Las Vegas Robotics has a couple of people that are well known. Tech Alley, of course. Everybody, Tech Alley, they're the saviors of the thing. Free food. I've gone into the Tech Alley problem, and I probably will again. The way to look at the problem, I'm not trying to be mean. I want you to imagine that you're scheduling something that you have many items on it. Say your college class schedule is an easy one, but not everyone's gone to college. But I have to schedule a bunch of things. Okay, there's only so many hours in the day. In a case of like a schedule grid at a school, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I can take this class. Tuesday, Thursday is this other class. So you kind of have to work within the framework of availability of classes and where they are and moving around and so on. So the Tech Alley solution to try, and this is literally from their plan from 5 years ago, they just turned 5. We will set up the venues and the schedules and we'll cater the lunch and all that. So you just have to organize your meetup and invite people to it. So they're basically providing the platform for this. Okay, that seems interesting. There are some people that have been there for years doing their same every month. They do their class on cryptocurrencies anyway. So you're like, these people they're just now having a monthly seminar series with the same people showing up. So the problem you run into is this. Now take all of your 5 days of college classes or whatever you're doing through the week, every week, 4 weeks in a month, and say, we'll just do them all in one day in the month, and then we'll do it again next month. And you might say to yourself, well, how are we going to fit all this stuff into one day? Shouldn't it be spread out a little bit? You would be correct. And so then the other thing is, I should be drinking water through every word. Nice cold water. Shouldn't we be spreading this out through the week? Well, yes, you are correct. But also, that is my opinion, I could be wrong. If you're going to have this event, because you're hanging everything on one day, you've now limited the opportunities to have new things, right? When we were doing the pitch workout room, we would have it at 9 o'clock in the morning because the rest of the day was already accounted for. So we'll just do it outside of the already established schedule. But really, and we did it 19 times. And I'll be honest, we had it at a different venue in the evening instead of in the morning. And we had a lot more time and we could try different formats out instead of the 5-minute total and then 5 minutes of feedback. Much better, right? So an event like Tech Alley where you have this platform established, if you're going to be entrepreneurial, you should say, hey, it should be a meetup accelerator. Meet here, or maybe a meetup incubator, depending on how you want to view those terms. The people come here every the third Saturday of the month. So we have a crowd, we have food, we have meetup spaces, we make videos of them. Everything's good. So come here, launch your meetup, establish a baseline sort of audience or interest level, and then, you get to do it three months, and then rotate something else in. Like, hey, if you want to keep having your meetup, you can do it. Establish a schedule with the people. Maybe let's call it 4 months. Let's call it a trimester, right? So 4 months of meetup, right? First time you establish the meetup. Second time you have a little bit of momentum. Start talking about, like, we'd like to have a regular meetup. We'd like to do it on Thursdays, every other Thursday, whatever it is. And then, by the third and the fourth, you're wrapping it up. And then you've established your meetup. You have a different venue, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, Tech Alley, even with their new venue, they're still in the middle of town. They're in the arts district in the center of the downtown Vegas area. I think that's much more appropriate than way off to one side or the other. Southwest is becoming very popular. That provides a platform for establishing new meetups that have value. What if there's no value? Well, then nobody's going to show up to your meetup. Because here's the problem. When you have just like those food truck events, right? You have the events and people discover the food trucks, but the real interesting stuff happens when the food truck can conduct its business on its own terms in different places. So these meetups, once they've established their crowd, if it's worthwhile, they should have a separate meetup somewhere else, more time, different resources, different location, whatever it is. So I think they're sort of scuttling the effort to add more meetups. You reach this, like everything's on one day. That's all you got. So you got to pack it in, or it's kind of a limit. And then you're seeing the same people doing the same thing all the time. What I would like to see is how many people who've graduated from this event made use of the things that they've seen every month for 2 years, 3 years, and then say, oh yeah, because of this, I was able to start my startup, or I got some funding, or I lost a bunch of money in crypto, or whatever it is. So I just think that this is a broken mindset where let's celebrate the person doing something that I don't have to do. And I think that's problematic. But also, as I was saying, the Las Vegas Startup Week, there is no press coverage. So the 300 people that signed up, okay, they're going to go to whatever. They're going to go to everything. But where's everybody else? Like, there should be 300 new people. Okay. The other big one, and this is the big one, is Global Entrepreneurship Week. I think it's entrepreneurship, or maybe it's just entrepreneurs. Global Entrepreneurs Week, or whatever it is, GEW. So there's a Nevada chapter. It's run by a person who got the Vegas chapter going 4 years ago, I think it is. And is it 4 years? The commencement of the Vegas location for the Global Entrepreneur Week events, it started the same time that Formula One did. And guess what? It's the same week. So the first time they treated that as a good, there'll be people here because of it, and we can tie it in. And now, Formula One got all the attention. Global Entrepreneurship Week, or Entrepreneur Week, did not. And I actually tried to help out with that one, that first one. Yeah. So every year it's the same week as Formula One here in Vegas. So Formula One gets all the attention, gets all the press. You would not know that Global Entrepreneurship Week was happening, other than that it happens to end on the final Saturday of the week is at Tech Alley. I don't know how Formula One managed to do this, to line up so well. I assume it's the case for this fourth year coming up in November. So what you end up with is Global Entrepreneurship Week is a global event. So this same event is happening all over the world to the extent that it is. And yet here in Vegas, we have no traction. Look through the local press, not a single mention. Everything's about Formula One. Look through any other resources anywhere. Is there a community calendar? No. Does the Las Vegas Visitors Convention and Visitors Authority mention it? No, that's not in their purview. What about the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance? Surely they're going to have that as an event to listen. No, nothing. Why? So these reasonable efforts to gather people to focus on startups and entrepreneurship get no light shown upon them. So I think that's a huge problem. So, all right, that's enough ranting. I've kind of mixed this in with the startup community. I think the startup community idea is people read books about, oh, here's what we did in Denver and here's what we did in it. And it's like, okay, that's fine. You should read those and then put them down and not open them again. Don't treat them as a checklist. They're not the Bible, if you're into the Bible, or any sort of religious text. In fact, here's what we did is fine. Here's what you should do. That's going out a little bit far on the cantilever, right? On the plank. So what I would say is you read those books as here's what worked for us. And then you do a real assessment of what's happening. Like, what do we have in our ecosystem, right? You can't build an ecosystem, certainly not in the space of a year or two. So you see what you have in your ecosystem. What sort of educational platforms here? What are people majoring in? What is the educational student body momentum like? Right? People are doing a lot of hospitality research. Okay, but whatever it is. So find out what's going on with education, what's going on with access to capital, because that's always a big question. What is your culture of innovation like? Vegas, it's very weak. People that say, oh no, we got all kinds of this stuff going on. Clark County is 2.4 million people, and I just referenced the 300 people that show up to things. Over the course of 13 years that I've lived here, I haven't seen like a monotonic growth, right? I'd like to see a growth in number of startups, participation, and so on. Getting good information about that is very difficult. Resources like Deal Room, they are not necessarily current, and they're managed by Startup NV. So they have a vested interest in providing a good picture. I could go on and on about this, but I just think that people are not, they're not spending time well on these efforts to build things. They should be encouraging people to participate. You shouldn't have to build a community. You should have to build build some chairs and tables. But a community of people that want to work on startups are either going to find value and show up in the notion like, oh, there are other people trying to do similar things as I am. We should collaborate in some way. And the things that people do to, quote, build community is things like, oh, be mentors or provide meetup spaces. Okay, you can do some of those things, but those are not the end of the world. Those are the beginnings. So, So yeah, I just think that people throw around terms like community building and ecosystem building without really recognizing A, what that really means or what it really could mean for where you are. And then B, what are we trying to accomplish and how are we measuring whether we are accomplishing it? You can't just count the number of people that show up for free food and say, oh, look, we're getting more successful. Yeah, but you're filling up all the rooms so you can't have more events. So you've basically blocked people from being more participatory by making them believe that this is the event you have to go to, and then that's it. So I have taken it down a notch with the reaction videos to change the topic. I've been watching so many lately. I've been filling in that time with interrogation videos. Now I will say that the context is like if I'm standing at my computer desk as I am now, I might have a video playing while I'm doing something. Reaction videos are interesting because I've usually seen the movie already, so I can kind of pick up on the modern day take. Interrogation videos are bizarre to me. They're bizarre to me because, okay, you're either going to be just playing a video, which would be fine, or you're going to have some sort of a narrator who kind of drums it up a little bit. Here's the thing. If you're watching an interrogation video, the person is guilty because if they're innocent, why are they going to show you the interrogation videos? The interrogation videos are usually a train wreck. I saw one the other day from a content creator called Dr. Frankenstein. He decides to inject some narration into a part of a interrogation video where the suspect, I guess, the subject of the interrogation, at least, the interview, watch how his attitude changes. And then the person says, I think I'd like to talk to a lawyer, or I'd like to have a lawyer. He makes it seem like, and so what you end up seeing in these interrogation videos, whether narrated or not, is you're watching people not exercise their Miranda rights. And then that's what makes it fun for YouTube channels. Like, then this is the part where they didn't know what they were doing. And they said a thing that someone, get an attorney. This should be the end of every show. Don't forget, you should always have an attorney. Watch this video and see what happens when you don't have an attorney. So if you're ever called in for whatever reason, don't say, am I under arrest? Don't say, I would like to speak to an attorney. First thing. And they'll appoint one for you from the court and whatnot, at the very least, so that you know what questions to ask. And you can say, well, a court-appointed attorney is not. You don't know what you're doing. A court-appointed attorney at least has some idea what the law is. So I don't understand why they don't. That's not the responsibility of the YouTubers, but the YouTubers will actually highlight things as in a sort of a gotcha scenario. And I really think, and like I said, by highlighting the suspicious nature of this, hey, I want a lawyer thing, problem. I just have a problem with that. But I will say, and it's funny because the one thing that is worthwhile, if for no other reason, and I'm trying to remember, I don't think if somebody were to, the closest I've come to a police interview about something was when I was a witness to a car accident in Ireland. So, and they came to me, the Garda came in because I was leaving the next morning from my hotel. So he's like, oh, I'll just come by and we'll talk. So I gave him my take, what I remembered from the event. Okay. It was just another eyewitness account that verified the rest. So that's mostly what's going on in this, is they're gathering different viewpoints so they can cross correlate things. Okay, great. Now, if you are a suspect, I've not been a suspect in anything, they're watching for how your story starts to deviate between different tellings, so they'll ask similar questions and so on. That's the thing that's the take home, right? If you're watching these videos, you should be watching how they will do things like, are you sure you want a lawyer? Because we're just, you don't have to, you can get a lawyer whenever you want, but so we can just ask you questions now. And then, so they really try to bend you back towards, oh, I'll just answer the questions. It'll take too long, and etc. So watching that stuff. And then of course they have all these different methods. Some of the narrators, the Dr. Frankenstein guy, will start doing the like, this is the ask the person a lot of questions and see if they mess up fallacy or whatever. He starts injecting these terms that I don't know. This is probably just for his own, so he can hear his voice. But anyway, so I think they're interesting to watch, mostly how the people are reacting. And of course, there's the big reveal at the end, in the title text. It's always like, killer teenage mom thinks she's going home. And then in parentheses, she's not, or whatever, right? So they make it into a little, haha, we got you kind of thing. But I think the value in these really should be in how to behave when you are questioned and your rights are not being completely, they're being told to you within the limits of the law, but they're not really being made clear. Or they're doing the, well, if we want an appointed attorney, we can get you an appointed attorney, but it's going to be a while. It might take a while. The one that I watched, the guy's like, now, I don't want to, this is totally up to you. You don't have to, but if we have to get your cell phone, and we have to, if you don't want to tell us your passcode, we have to attach it to this special machine. It's this big expensive machine, and it could take months or years to crack your phone, right? So it could take months or years, but if you give us the passcode, we'll take what we need from it, and then we'll return the phone to you. And then, so one person's like, well, what? I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff on my phone that I don't want to give you. Oh, we have a separate department that handles that, and they're not going to look at anything. It's only stuff related to the case. Well, come on. They're going to take everything off the phone, and it's going to end up on your permanent record somewhere. I don't believe any of that stuff because it's too easy. It's far too easy to collect any location data that's on your device, any photos that might be relevant of something else. And I mean, there's just all kinds of people who use their phone as like a personal file cabinet. And that's unfortunate. You should probably strip your phone every once in a while, back it up and factory reset it and all this stuff. Although Android updates are ridiculous at that point. Oh, factory reset? We just have to apply 32 updates one at a time now, in order. But anyway, so yeah, I'm troubled by that. Now, I would not mind getting my voice. If you've ever seen the Explore With Us interrogation videos, Explore With Us channel on YouTube. The narrator's name is Russell Archie. Russell Archie, Archey. Explore With Us. He's got a really good voice, and I wish my voice could be in that condition. You can already hear through this episode, the more I talk, the more kind of loosened up everything gets, and then it becomes, changes the tenor, the timbre, changes the timbre of my voice. Can I get low? Sort of. It's already hot in Vegas, though I think as I say this, that there's a cooling trend going on. So right now it's 91 degrees, and earlier in the week it would have been like 95, 98. It's been hitting, I think we've gone over 100. Official over 100, but definitely over 100 up where I am. So it's been very hot, but it's been very windy. So the wind is kicking up today and this week. So between now and Wednesday, it's supposed to be under 90 tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow it's supposed to be cool. Forecast at 77, I think it was. And then it'll creep back up towards 90 by Wednesday or Thursday. But I will tell you, having lived in Phoenix, it's not that hot here. The wind is good, but the wind kicks up all manner of particulates. And as we always know, this is where the nuclear weapons were tested. So what's in that soil and dust and sand and whatnot is going to be there for billions of years. So these are not good for allergies, and that's why this is the allergy season. The effects on people appear to be less consistent in recent years. Both the wind and when it comes and for how long and to what degree. Do we get wind warnings? Probably. We have had some, but sometimes I run into people and their eyes are puffy and watering, or they're hacking up whatever. And oh yeah, the Vegas croup. And so everybody knows about it, but I haven't seen that as much. So I don't know if people are getting used to it, or because like even I don't have the same reaction I have when I first moved here. I was not. Somebody said, "Do you have pneumonia or something? What's going on with this coughing?" I don't get that anymore, but I do have my allergic reactions, which are problematic. So who knows? Who knows what's going on? We're at an hour and 20 on my clock now, so that's probably a good length. I usually, anything else, and I try to think of anything else that I may have forgotten that came to mind. Yeah, I don't quite, I saw this article, which I will talk about during the week, probably on Friday, that the greater Vegas area is like leading the nation in hiring of tech workers. But whenever you find these surveys, like Wallet Hub is the source of truth for a lot of things, apparently here in Vegas for sure. So, Vegas is the happiest place on earth, but also the most depressed place on earth, or whatever it is, right? So you always find Wallet Hub did a survey. So Wallet Hub is the keeper of all this truth. This one is from CompTIA. I can't remember what that stands for. They were looking at, so here's the problem. They look at job listings, job descriptions for open positions as one of their inputs, one of the things that they're analyzing. But as we know, you can post a job description and never hire the person. So it's not clear to me that we have actual innovation happening here, or if we have jobs advertising that they could be working on innovation, but then whatever happens to it. So the person that wrote the article, I think his name is Todd Dewey, for the Review Journal, I emailed him and I said, hey, I'd be interested in getting a follow-up at the end of the year about how this actually turned out. So hopefully you'll do that. I probably won't ever hear from him. But that's the thing here in Vegas, is they make claims, they hype it up, a lot of posting on LinkedIn, a lot of likes. There's a policy for City of Las Vegas, at least, like, anytime a colleague posts something, make sure you like it and share it and all this stuff. Just like food trucks. So I can't fault them for that, but it is important to realize that they're much more interested and excited by the hype and the engagement than in actual outcomes. And because I've attempted to work with the City of Las Vegas with our foundation, Innovate for Vegas, it's right there in the name, I know that they really do not care unless you are bringing jobs and money. You're a nonprofit and you're just trying to make the lights a little bit brighter here? Well, good luck with that. And why don't you show us what you got when you got something? That's it. So, yeah, I don't believe Vegas is a competent place if you are looking for help from above, right, from the bourgeoisie of Vegas. So if you are truly entrepreneurial and you want to come to this place and take advantage of what is available in the ecosystem for the purposes of extending your idea into reality, this might be the place for you. I always tell people we have 2.4 million people living in the greater Vegas area, Clark County, but we have 38 million for last year, 38 million people visiting here. People from all manner of different places and cultures and mobility abilities, right? You're going to have people that can't get around like a typical person, perhaps. So you can look at all sorts of accessibility issues. You can look at different languages that people speak. Census data makes English and Spanish the two languages that are actually supported with city services and whatnot. Although they do support other languages, but it's English and Spanish are like the languages that they support. And Tagalog is apparently number 3 from what I've read. That one is more local survey data, or maybe the census records this, but they only do the top 2 as far as like paying for translations. Now, making it sound like they leave other people out, that's not true, but they're consistent about the top 2. So in my mind, this is a problem that Google Translate and similar services solved like a decade ago. So we should be making a lot more use of automated technologies to sort of translate by default. Accessibility is another huge thing. Who's working on accessibility? I've taken pictures of things that point to how we are not so accessible. But we have so many people coming here that we can try out ideas on. We can ask them real questions. Hey, is your hotel room, does it work for you? Is it preventing you from having like a comfortable experience? Zero labs, that's their entire focus. Do you think they're going to focus on that sort of thing? No, that's not very exciting. I I've heard from people, accessibility is not exciting until you need it. And then I've got a project on deck that may or may not see the light of day, but in my travels, I was speaking to people with actual limitations that they had to overcome, wheelchairs especially, and things like this. Boy howdy, there are companies that make a lot of claims. Even cities make a lot of claims, and then when the rubber really meets the road, they're like, "Oh, can I put you on hold?" So I think we could do a better job across the board, and accessibility will be a focus of the City Camp Las Vegas event in 2026, and it will definitely be a focus across the Smarter Smart City Challenge. A smarter smart city should be smarter for everybody. So possibilities. Anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it for today. Thank you for listening as always, and thank you for allowing me to rant, indulging me perhaps. There you go. All right, it's been long enough. I'll cut it short and say thanks again, and we'll see you around. I'll try to record another episode before 10 days. Bye bye.